just arrived. The USS Delbert D. Black, an American guided missile destroyer, has docked in the Gulf of Aqaba, just south of Israel's port city of Eilat. On paper, the visit is described as pre-planned. In reality, it lands at one of the most volatile moments the region has seen in years. Behind the scenes, this is about far more than a routine port call. The docking comes amid rising regional tensions and growing assessments that the United States may be edging closer to direct action against Iran. Israeli security officials are closely tracking US military movements, viewing them as part of intensified US-Israeli coordination, both defensive and offensive, as the possibility of escalation looms. In recent weeks, Washington has quietly surged military assets into the Middle East, expanding firepower, missile defense, and naval presence. The message is unmistakable. President Donald Trump now has options, real, immediate options, should he choose to strike Iran, particularly as the Iranian regime continues its violent crackdown on protesters.
Iran versus the US, the ticking clock. In the last 72 hours, the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East has shifted from a simmer to a localized boil. Images of missile interceptions and drone strikes are no longer outliers. They are becoming the daily rhythm of a region sitting on a powder keg. But behind the headlines lies a much more dangerous reality. We are no longer talking about isolated skirmishes between proxies. We are looking at direct, high-tech, high-stakes collision course between Washington and Tehran.
Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has made an unexpected visit to the holy city of Qom, according to reports by JFeed. During his visit, Khamenei stopped at the Jamkaran Mosque and paid respects at the shrine of Fatima Masumeh, two of Qom's most significant religious sites, JFeed reported. These developments were first highlighted by JFeed, an Israeli news outlet, which cited analysts and observers commenting on the possible significance of the visit. The Jamkaran Mosque has long stood as a powerful symbol of faith and national identity in Iran, drawing pilgrims and carrying deep religious significance. Observers note that Khamenei's low-profile pilgrimage was not publicly announced and is believed to have lasted only a short time. His visit to the revered Mosque of the Hidden Imam comes at a moment of heightened tensions between Iran, the United States, and Israel.
Today, we are stripping away the political rhetoric to analyze the 1 trillion miscalculation that could spark a global conflict. Is the strike imminent? And more importantly, is there any way to stop the ticking clock?
It must be logical and fair, considering our legitimate and legal interests and concerns. The Islamic Republic of Iran is ready to re-enter nuclear negotiations. The Islamic Republic of Iran has never, at any point in time, sought to acquire nuclear weapons, and these weapons hold absolutely no place in our national security calculations. We have consistently been prepared to engage in confidence-building measures concerning the entirely peaceful nature of our nuclear program, and this commitment has been unwavering, both in the past and continuing into the present day. We are ready to enter into negotiations, provided that these talks are conducted from a position of equality based on mutual interests. and it should always be characterized by a genuine and profound sense of mutual respect.
The ticking clock, analyzing escalation. To understand where we are going, we have to look at the red lines that have already been erased. For decades, the shadow war between the US and Iran followed a specific set of unwritten rules. Iran utilizes its axis of resistance to exert pressure, while the US utilized target sanctions and regional containment. That era is over.
Turkey is stepping up its activities as Middle East gears up for potential American strikes on Iran. Turkey is making a move on the diplomatic front amid heightened tensions between Iran and US. In a phone call earlier today, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan told Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian that Ankara is ready to help de-escalate rising tensions between Tehran and Washington. The message was direct. Turkey is willing to facilitate dialogue, to cool tempers, and to help resolve disputes before the situation spins out of control. The timing is critical. The call comes amid escalating military tensions across the region, with both sides openly preparing for contingencies. On the same day Erdogan was speaking to Tehran, Iran's top diplomat, Abbas Araghchi, was already in Istanbul, holding high-level talks, a sign that Ankara is positioning itself as an active diplomatic hub, not just a messenger. Just a day earlier, Erdogan approached U.S. President Donald Trump with a proposal that raised eyebrows across capitals: a trilateral summit, Turkey, the United States, and Iran, potentially held virtually. According to Turkey's pro-government daily Hurriyet, Trump responded positively. No formal confirmation, no official U.S. White House statement, just a quiet signal, subtle but deliberate, that Washington may be willing to listen even as its military posture hardens. Far from Washington, and even farther from Tehran, reports indicate that F-35A Lightning II fighter jets from Vermont's Green Mountain Boys have landed in the Azores, a strategic midpoint between North America and Europe, a staging area that matters. According to Israeli Hayom, citing sources familiar with the situation, the United States, alongside Britain, France, Israel, and other partners, has already prepared a coordinated bank of targets for potential strikes on Iran. At the same time, Tehran is not standing still. Iran now says it has inducted 1,000 drones into its army's combat structure, a clear signal that it is preparing for a prolonged and asymmetric confrontation if diplomacy fails.
The recent surge in sophisticated attacks on global shipping lanes and the direct targeting of high-value military assets represents a fundamental shift in Iranian doctrine. They are testing limits of American patience and military resolve. On the other side, the U.S. military posture has shifted from deterrence through presence to deterrence through readiness. With carrier strike groups positioned in the Mediterranean and the Red Sea, the margin for error has shrunk to zero. The question is no longer if a red line will be crossed, but whether the U.S. command structure believes it has already happened.
There will be no pause, no warning shot, no waiting for backroom diplomacy to catch up. That is the message coming out of Tehran. Iran is drawing a red line, and this time, it says there will be no delay in crossing it. Speaking on state television, Iranian army spokesman Brigadier General Mohammad Akraminia issued one of the clearest and most forceful warnings yet to the United States and Israel. Any new act of aggression against Iran will be met with immediate retaliation, real time, real force, no hesitation. His words were blunt, cold, deliberate. Iran, he said, has changed its rules of engagement. The lesson of June's 12-day war has been learned, and hesitation is now considered a strategic failure. If the enemy makes another foolish move, Akraminia warned, the response will be instant. No more waiting, no more calculating international reaction, no more giving the enemy time to breathe. According to Iran's military leadership, that delay, that hesitation, was the one thing they will never repeat. The June War, as Tehran frames it, was supposed to be quick, a lightning strike, a shock operation. Washington and Tel Aviv, Iranian officials claim, believed Iran was vulnerable, still reeling from regional pressure, internal strain, and the aftermath of Operation Al-Aqsa Storm. They believed chaos would follow, that unrest would erupt, that Iran would fracture. Instead, Iran says the opposite happened. The strikes did not collapse the state. They did not fracture society. They did not break Iran's command structure. They hardened it. National unity, Akraminia claimed, grew stronger. And the operation meant to shock Iran into submission became, according to Tehran, a strategic failure. This, he said, was the American miscalculation. Akraminia reserved particular criticism for the United States under President Donald Trump, describing Washington's behavior as erratic, impulsive, and rooted in outdated ideas of coercion. With Trump's America, he said, nothing is predictable. He accused the U.S. president of seeking Iran's surrender during the conflict, only to reverse course once Iran's deterrent power became impossible to ignore. The war, he claimed, didn't end because Iran backed down. It ended because Iran forced a ceasefire. And now, Akraminia says, any belief in a limited or symbolic strike is pure fantasy. This, he said, is not a war where the U.S. president orders an operation and 2 hours later tweets that it's over. No 2-hour war. Such thinking, Iran warns, would ignite a fire that spreads far beyond Iran's borders, engulfing the entire West Asia region. Behind the rhetoric is something more concrete and more dangerous. Iran says the plans are already written, the orders already issued, the scenarios already mapped. Different attacks, different responses, but one rule applies to all of them. Even the smallest strike will be answered. If we are hit even slightly, Akraminia said, we will respond. And that response, he warned, may not be desirable for the United States. This is where the warning widens. Iran makes it clear, any future conflict will not be confined to one battlefield or one country. The geography of war, Tehran says, would stretch across the entire region, from Israel itself to every country hosting American bases. Those bases, Akraminia emphasized, are fully within Iran's strike envelope. Missiles, drones, semi-heavy weapons, even U.S. naval assets, including aircraft carriers, are not immune. Aircraft carriers are important tools, he said, but they are vulnerable, including to Iran's much-advertised missile and hypersonic capabilities. The message is unmistakable. There will be no safe distance.
The deterrence paradox. This brings us to the core of all of our analysis, the deterrence paradox. For years, the West has relied on technological superior systems like Iron Dome and the Aegis combat system to create a defensive shield. However, Iran has spent decades developing asymmetric workarounds. They aren't trying to match the U.S. Navy ships for ship. Instead, they are deploying swarms, low-cost, high-velocity suicide drones and ballistic missiles designed to overwhelm even the most advanced radar systems.
Our military is very, very strong. You may want to say something about the large fleet of ships that's heading over to the Middle East.
Amid growing speculation that the United States may launch a war in the near future, Iran has unveiled what it claims is a vast network of underwater missile tunnels, signaling a dramatic new layer to its deterrent strategy. Iranian officials asserted that these subsea missile tunnels are capable of housing hundreds of long-range cruise missiles, suggesting that they could unleash sustained salvos against enemy targets far beyond their shores. The claim about this underwater network was reported by the New Arab on January 28, which cited multiple Iranian state media accounts as the source of the dramatic revelations. Iranian state television even aired a guided tour of one such tunnel, with IRGC Navy Commander Alireza Tangsiri personally walking cameras through the facility to showcase its capabilities. The timing of the revelation coincided with renewed Iranian threats to shut the Strait of Hormuz if the country is attacked, underlining how central this choke point is to Tehran's leverage. Around 1/5 of global oil trade is estimated to pass through the Strait of Hormuz every single day, making any disruption their potential shock to the world economy. Footage of Iran's undersea complex showed long rows of rockets and missile canisters lined up and apparently prepared for launch, reinforcing the message that these tunnels are operational, not merely conceptual. Tangsiri declared that the IRGC Navy now possesses a wide and integrated network of missile tunnels beneath the sea, giving Iran hidden launch positions across key maritime approaches. He said these tunnels were specifically developed to confront and threaten U.S. naval vessels operating in the Persian Gulf and the nearby Sea of Oman, turning local waters into a potential kill zone. The IRGC Navy commander added that the tunnels are stocked with cruise missiles boasting ranges of more than 1,000 kilometers, allowing Iran to strike targets deep across the region. Tangsiri highlighted one such weapon, the Qaeda-380L missile, which he said was built by the IRGC Navy and has a range exceeding 1,000 kilometers, reinforcing Iran's long-reach strike capabilities. According to Iranian claims, the Qaeda-380L also features smart guidance systems that allow it to track its targets continuously until impact, improving accuracy against moving ships.
If a conflict breaks out, it won't look like the wars of the 20th century. It will be a digital and kinetic blitz. We are seeing a terrifying evolution where a $1,000 drone can threaten $1 billion destroyer. The technological gap is where the greatest risk of miscalculation lives. If one side believes their defenses are impenetrable, they may take risks that leads to catastrophe. If the other side believes they have found a silver bullet to bypass those defenses, the incentive to strike first becomes overwhelming.
As the US appears to be positioning itself for a possible conflict, Tehran may be using the Strait of Hormuz and its missile tunnel network as a powerful bargaining chip in any negotiations or standoff. IRGC officer Akbarzadeh stated that Iran enjoys air, surface, and subsurface dominance in and around the Strait of Hormuz, portraying the waterway as effectively under Iranian control. He said the security of the strait ultimately depends on decisions made in Tehran, a comment reported by the New Arab that sounded very much like a warning to foreign powers. Akbarzadeh also claimed that Iran can track ships under different national flags moving through the area, a veiled threat likely aimed at Western and allied commercial and naval vessels. The IRGC has warned that if war is imposed on Iran, its response will be more decisive and punishing than ever before, hinting at large-scale missile and naval operations. Tehran has repeatedly said that any of Washington's Arab allies who allow their soil to be used for attacks on Iran would themselves be treated as hostile parties and legitimate targets. In response, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates have told Iran and the US that they will not permit American forces to launch strikes on Iran from their territory, attempting to stay out of the direct line of fire.
Finally, we have to address the $1 trillion miscalculation. War is never just a military event. It is a global economic earthquake. The Strait of Hormuz and the Suez Canal are the jugular veins of the global economy. A full-scale conflict doesn't just mean a rise in oil prices, it means a collapse of the global insurance market for shipping, a total disruption of the semiconductor supply chain, and a diplomatic crisis that would force every superpower, including China and Russia, to pick a side. Leaders in both Washington and Tehran are currently betting that they can manage the escalation, that they can push the envelope without tearing it. But history tells us that escalation is easy to start and nearly impossible to control. In conclusion, the clock is ticking. Whether through a calculated military strike or a simple tactical error by a local commander, the path to a broader conflict has never been shorter. We are watching a high-stake game of brinksmanship, where the buy-in is measured in trillions of dollars and countless lives. The coming weeks will determine if diplomacy can find a foothold, or if the world is about to witness a miscalculation that changes the 21st century forever.